I love to use up scraps. Hey guys, Mayflom here, and I'm cleaning up after a few different projects. I have some tissue here. The tissue paper came from the store scalloped already. I have a bunch of pattern papers, and I love to use scraps, and you've seen me go on the ScanNcut and just cut scraps out. But today I want to show you two different ways. One of the really popular trends in embellishments for paper crafting right now are embellishments that are multiple layers, really detailed embellishments, a lot of layers of paper and fun stuff, and then cut into usually pretty simple shapes like hearts or stars. So I want to show you two different ways your ScanNcut can create embellishments like that for your own. So what I have here is this piece of pink polka dotted paper, and I've layered on 3 different pieces of paper on top. Now, if you're going to cut it, if you're going to assemble and cut out from the ScanNcut, there's advantages and disadvantages to both methods. Advantage to this method is we're going to be able to scan this in, see it exactly, and cut it out beautifully. I will need to be really careful about the tissue layer. In fact, I'm going to need to put some more adhesive down for that tissue layer, because otherwise when my ScanNcut comes along to cut and it gets to that spot, you can see what happened. The blade is going to lift that up, and I do not want that to happen. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a little more double-sided tape. Will it show through the tissue? It might, but honestly, that's a risk I'm going to have to take, because otherwise I risk this whole thing just lifting up, and I don't want that at all. So this is method number 1. The upside is you can totally control exactly how it's going to look. The downside is, and it's quick, it's easy, just throw some scraps together, go. You could throw washi tape, you could throw pattern paper, cardstocks, tissue, whatever you've got. The downside is you're going to need to cut for 3 pieces of pattern paper, and that's because whatever the deepest is, you're going to have to cut for that, which could end up cutting a little deeply into your mat on the top and on the bottom here where it's only 1 layer. So not necessarily even a big deal. Let's give it a try and see. We're going to go into pattern, and I already know I want to try a heart first off, and I've got a couple options. I could also draw and scan in my own heart. I just really like this basic one. So first of all, we're just going to set that, and then we're going to push the magical blue button here that's going to scan in my paper. With that scanned in, we can see where the heart is going to fit, and this is something I really like, okay? I can see in here, and we can go push this button here and this one here, and we can size up. I definitely want this to be a little bit bigger so that we get all of the pieces showing. And I can keep adjusting the height. Now, just a quick little tip, if we wanted to, if we push this button, it would change the height but not the width, which would change the dynamic of the heart. So, or opposite, change the width, not the height. So that little button right there is your friend. Me, I like what I see. I like what we've got. I'm gonna set my blade at 8, which is pretty deep. It's not, I don't usually go that high, but I think that's what I'm gonna need. So I'm gonna try that out. All we've gotta do, if I'm happy with where it's at, which I'm kind of thinking I'd like it to be over just a little bit. There we go. I'm ready to cut. Okay, so I've got it here, and there's absolutely no damage to my mat. It didn't quite cut perfect here, where remember the tissue I told you I was concerned about. But the good news is the little tiny bit of tear that happened there with the tissue, and I watched it, the tissue just crumpled up because it's not adhered all the way to the edge. So the little tiny spot here, it was perfect though, because it's a little excess that we got. Now, when I'm looking at this, everything cut out beautifully and there's no damage to my mat. The only thing that didn't quite cut out is just right where it's the very thickest. It didn't cut all the way through. You've got 2 options. I could have left it on the mat and recut it, or what I'm thinking the better bet is to just take a little pair of scissors or a craft knife and just trim that little bit. And really, the only time I ever do this for my ScanNcut is when I'm trying to do something like this where I've got a whole lot of layers and such, and I know that doing the deeper cut is only going to damage my mat or leave marks, you know, because it's multiple layers. I hopped over to my sewing machine and added a little bit of stitching. So you can see that's just the start. We can make this embellished heart. So many different things we can do to it. We could add some buttons. We could add some glitter glue. There's lots and lots of things that we can do to create our own embellishments. And we can resize this. We can make it out of different materials. We can turn this into so many things. So it's a great thing to get used to making your own embellishments. You can save yourself a whole lot of money. So let me show you now the second way that we would do this. So the second way I would do this is I would go in, and this is assuming that you would have similar thickness of materials. If you have different thicknesses, you're going to have different, you're gonna need different times that you do this, okay? So if I'm gonna do this, and for me, I'm gonna go like so, space them out just a little bit. But before I get any further, I am getting ahead of myself. I'm gonna wanna get out my cutting mat, and I'm going to want to put some pieces of paper onto that. So let me scoot my machine to the side here. Got a little ahead of myself, and that's okay. So I'm gonna just take some different materials and different papers, and I always just, if I'm getting down to it, I always end up just tearing them and placing them on my mat. And we can repeat this with as many papers as we would like. Just going to place them on my mat. Once on the mat, we are going to want to press that blue button. But first, okay, get the mat loaded. There we go. Now press the blue button and push start and let this scan in so it will see where all of our beautiful papers are. And now that I can see where my papers are, I can move my hearts around. And as you can see, I don't actually, this one I thought was tall enough for 2, and it may be, I just need to go in here and nudge this one up just so, and then repeat with this one, so they're gonna be very, very close. But I love this tool, and then of course this one I can move it around so I get the parts that I want. Once I'm happy with the location of everything, just okay. And cut. And if you had different materials that were different thicknesses, you would just repeat this step with however many materials, however many colors you'd like. Now with these cut out, we can just remove them from the mat. Nice and easy. And again, we could repeat with as many different things as we would like. Remove those from the mat, and then here's the fun part. So they're all exactly perfectly the same size, which means I can now use scissors if I want, or simply tear and tape anything that I would like in any order that I would like. So this is cool because remember I was saying how this way we aren't gonna have to worry about if anything is going to harm our mat. You know, if you're in multiple layers and you have mat issues or concerns or anything like that, then you don't have to worry about it. You can just stick and glue. The downside, of course, is that you're having to, you know, tape things down just so, you know, make like I just messed this one up. But it could be, especially if you're going to try to make a lot, you may really enjoy this, because here's the fun thing about doing this. I like both ways, I really do. So the fun thing about doing it the way I just did it is, what we can do now is take a different paper and we can keep using the scraps. We're not just making one, although we could of course make multiple the other way, but now I can take this and no waste. We can just combine all of the scraps in different ways and get different looks each time. Which, you know, guys, it's a lot of fun. It's a great way to use scraps. It's a great way to get the most out of your stash, to save a little money. And of course, we can now repeat. Remember how, and you're not going to be able to tell which one was cut as it was versus which ones did you assemble yourself. Now, one thing I do notice, though, of course, is you're going to want to put plenty of adhesive down so that you don't have things popping up. But now we're free to embellish. We're free to mix and match these. We could do bigger or smaller. I went with bigger because I was thinking they could be a centerpiece for a card, the centerpiece for a gift topper. There's a lot of different ways that we could certainly use these and have a lot of fun with these. I hope you've liked this quick video tutorial. Stay tuned for more. I'll see you next time.